Hello everybody, welcome to Life in Sydney, our webinar series. We're just waiting for a few minutes while people just log in. If you've just joined us, tell us where you're from and what degree you're actually interested in the University of Sydney, if you know anything about us. And we'll just hold up for a bit and see how it goes. Awesome, there's about 5 people coming through at the moment. 11. Quite a number. Where are you all from, actually? Please let us know. I'd also like to actually introduce my colleague Chris while we're here as well. He's the regional manager for the Americas. So he'll be here assisting me today, just talking to you guys about postgraduate courseworks that are available at the University of Sydney. My name is Wendy and I'm a recruitment assistant who works with Chris as well. I look after a slightly different market in India, but we're all across everything as well. So if you actually also like to ask us any questions, we're going to be answering them towards the end of the webinar. So please load them up and we'll keep them coming. And if there's any repeats, we'll just limit that to kind of a 1 question, and any urgent ones, we'll see if we can answer as we go as well.
Also, if there are questions that we find we can't answer, we'll record them and get back to you after the webinar. Some of them are a bit too detailed and complicated to go into in this format. If you haven't found the message box yet to put your questions in, Wendy, where would they find that?
It should be up at the top. You take a look and you see, actually, sorry, at the bottom. It's right down at the bottom. And there should be a kind of messenger chat. So we've disabled the Q&A bit, but just type it in the chat and we have someone actually tracking the questions as you ask them as well. So first question's actually already come through as well. We can answer that quite quickly before our presentation starts actually, while we're still waiting for more people to come through. I think the question is, what's the average age of the students? I'm about 46 years old now and worried about it.
Well, I'll answer that one because I'm even older than you. At 46, I think I was about the same age when I started my Masters of Philosophy here at the University of Sydney, the Research Masters program. I didn't see it as being a problem at all. I love the fact that I was studying with students who were a lot younger than I was, and they were showing me what was happening in their world, and I could gain a much better understanding of it. I have to say I liked the fact that I'd come through a different education system, and I believe my class and my professors agreed that my writing skills were actually of a higher level than some of the other students. So I think you've got advantages and maybe some disadvantages, but that's what university is all about, is about taking what you've got and building on it. So please don't worry about being 46 years old. I remember it a long time ago and it was a good age. So enjoy it, take up the challenges, and you'll get as much, if not more, out of it than anyone else.
And I was a student here as well at the University of Sydney and doing a Bachelor of Arts degree. And we actually had quite a few older students in our class as well. And I really enjoyed learning from them. They had a very different perspective about a lot of topics we actually studied. And it was very helpful in kind of getting a broader depth of opinions as well. So definitely consider it, actually. It's a great contributor, not to yourself and your own education, but also everyone else's around you. Definitely.
All right, well, let's do the introduction again. I think everyone who's here is going to be here is here.
Awesome. So just to introduce ourselves, my name's Wendy and I'm a recruitment assistant at the University of Sydney. I'm actually also an alumnus of University of Sydney. I graduated in 2017. So that's not too recently ago yet, but still recent enough. And I have here my colleague Chris.
Yep, I also work in student recruitment at the university and have done so for about 10 years. I'm also an alum of the University of Sydney, so we should probably declare that. Not only do we work here, but we've also you've also studied here, so we're in too deep to get out now, I think. I hope you enjoy this presentation. It's going to be basically on
so today's one's actually on postgraduate coursework. So we'll be going through a bit of our information about admissions into postgraduate coursework, quite simple information to be honest, but also a bit of general information about the courses that we are offering as well. And that means that you can actually just get a broader depth or information about what you might want to study and what is actually available at the University of Sydney as well. And we'll go through the differences between all the courses and the degrees as well. And that might hopefully will be able to answer some of your questions that you have towards the end.
A couple of questions have just rolled in, and before we get into the full swing of this, the webinar, I might just deal with those because a couple of them are quite easy. I'll read it, and Wendy, if you could respond.
Awesome.
What are the family housing options provided by the uni from Farad?
So with family housing options, it might be a little difficult. So with the ones that are closest to the uni or on campus, the housing options are mainly for single or two or double shared. If you're looking for maybe more than that, for example, maybe a bit of an apartment that houses you and your whole family together, you might need to look at off-campus options as well, which we have actually quite a few number of in surrounding suburbs, less than about 10 minutes walk away from the university, but it will be mostly private housing. And that would be on our website as well, and the university assists in helping you actually look for that if needed.
All right, the next question is, what's the difference between postgraduate degree by coursework and postgraduate degree by research? Are you happy for me to answer that one? All right. The line between these sometimes blurs, but traditionally a postgraduate degree by coursework means you're not doing any research. You've got a unit of study, you combine those units of study together to create enough units to complete a degree structure. Postgraduate degrees by research are sometimes a pathway through to a higher degree. So for example, you can do a Master of Philosophy or a Master's by Research that's a pathway through to a PhD and of course the PhD itself. In these situations, if you've got the research background, you submit your research proposal to a prospective supervisor, you negotiate that research degree, then you start that and you do your own research. You are the driving force behind that program. And then you graduate once you have defended your thesis to the supervisors and the panel's satisfaction. So one of them is really about, these are the units of study, I'm going to put them together and make a degree. The research pathway is, this is the topic, someone supervises you and you get through to a thesis at the end of it. The next one, if you don't mind, I'll read and when you can answer.
Before we actually go to the next one as well, we actually will have a postgraduate degree by research webinar tomorrow with our head of recruitment in research. So if you'd like to join us then to find out more information, you're more than welcome to.
Next question is, as I am a married man with some children, is there any part-time work opportunities there like tutoring and so forth?
Yes, there is, but it isn't managed as a study thing, so to speak. You need to actually apply for it through the university website, through careers opportunities, and they'll list it up. You're also always welcome to actually ask your supervisor or one of your lecturers, see if they're looking for a research assistant. It does vary from season to season, so you'll need to actually check when you get here as well.
The flexibility you have in Australia is much greater than you would in the United States. And people think of the US system. So you don't have to work on campus. Once you have a student visa, that is a work visa, and you can work 20 hours a week, and we're right near the city, so there's lots of opportunities. Fantastic. We're going to get into the presentation now. Take it away.
Yes, so before we do, just to let you know, tomorrow's presentation and on Monday are ongoing, and today we'll be doing another Life in Sydney after this and a study the MBA. If you are interested, please join us as well, okay?
Please remember these will be recorded and they will be available for a few months afterwards if you wish to either see them for the first time or review.
Exactly. So just to begin, ultimate question, why would you study at the University of Sydney? So just to give you a bit of context, the University of Sydney is actually located in the city of Sydney, Australia. Yes, we are basically largest and most dynamic city in Australia, and one of the most friendly and livable as well by multiple ranks and anecdotes as well. We're a very popular city actually for international students. Over 35,000 students actually live here from overseas, and one of the most multicultural as well. And just to give a look at an idea about where our campuses are in context with the city. So the picture you see here is actually our Sydney CBD. So you can see the Harbour Bridge, and you can probably spot the Opera House just around the corner up the left. And around there we have a CBD campus, which is for the business school, a Sydney Conservatory of Music, just right next to the Opera House as well in the Botanical Gardens. And our main campus is our Camperdown Darlington campus, which is about less than 15 minutes bus ride away from the city as well. Again, with a bit of context here, as I said in regards to housing options, that there are actually quite a few suburbs around our campus in which you can actually take a look at, not just on campus. It's also quite close to the city as well. So it's a very, very convenient area to actually be in. Close to the city, and then also public transport wise as well. Very heavily used by all international students, and the best way to actually get around Sydney.
I'm going to stop you there because there's a very relevant question just popped up from Jay. What makes the campus, University of Sydney campus, different from any other campuses in Australia? Now, you pointed out what we have. Can you do a bit of a contrast with, say, Melbourne, UQ, and so forth?
Sure. Well, University of Sydney is actually around the same age of the University of Melbourne. So we kind of have slightly similar campuses because we've been here basically long enough to actually be able to do that. In a sense, I think the Melbourne campus is, I'm actually not too sure, Chris.
It's a little, Melbourne campus is a little further away from the city and it's more disjointed. When you're on campus at the University of Sydney, you know you're on campus and you can feel it. When you step off campus, you know you're off campus. Some campuses sort of bleed into the suburbs around them. That's not us. We know when you're on campus, we're right next to the CBD and we have just the best transport of any university in the country. 2 bus lines running on 2 sides of the campus and our own train station, Redfern, which we've been using for over 100 years. So you've got access to the rest of the city, you've got access to the campus, and you know when you're on campus. It's a great feel to be on campus, and I hope you get an opportunity to give us some time and come and have a tour of the campus if you're ever in town.
I definitely agree.
Continue, please.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned actually previously as well, the University of Sydney is Australia's first university. We beat Melbourne by about 3 years, I believe, and we were founded in 1850, so we did predate Commonwealth of Australia. We're modelled after Oxford and Cambridge because that's where our founders are from, and currently we are ranked 42 out of over 2,000 universities worldwide, which is an amazing feat in itself, as we have an amazing breadth and depth of subjects to actually take into account as well with these rankings. So entry into Sydney has always been based on academic merit since our founding, and that's something we're still quite proud of as well to this day for all students, international or domestic. So this is a picture of what we used to actually look like. Our main quad, which is still in use today for the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences. It's an amazing black and white building. These trees are no longer there, but you can still get a sense of the feel of just how big the campus actually is. The best and brightest minds also are taught here as well. As you might be able to see, 7 prime ministers. Our previous one, including Tony Abbott, was a Rhodes Scholar, and you'll be joining a community of over 145 nationalities and 70,000 students, international and domestic. And we have about 280,000 global alumni. So when you join the University of Sydney, you wouldn't actually be limited to any sort of Australia in itself, but you'd actually be connecting with a global network of people. Again, over 400 study areas that you can actually choose from. So today we'll be going over a lot of postgraduate degrees from most of these areas actually, and you'll be able to actually see just what you'll be able to actually specialize and study in as well. Just a quick look at our rankings for this current year. A quick fact, the University of Sydney actually is one of the only universities to have all of their subjects be considered for the rankings for the QS subjects. That's how many we actually have. And a quick overview of the University of Sydney study timeline. So universities in Australia are slightly different from the Northern Hemisphere. We start in February at the beginning of the year, and our year actually ends towards the end of the year in December. And we have a small break in July. So it's split mostly over semester 1 and 2, with the exceptions of some unis in Australia which have trimesters, but for the most part, we actually start at the end of the year and end at the end of the year as well. So nothing too confusing, understanding that. But again, it's very different to the Northern Hemisphere as well.
We've got quite a few questions coming in, but we will wait to the end for them because they're fairly general in nature. So know that we have got your questions and we're just going to do them at the end and continue with the presentation.
And again, Sydney is more than a classroom. As Chris advised, when you step onto campus, you actually know you're on a massive campus. When I do campus tours personally, I only am able to actually show 1/3 of the place to about within about an hour and a half to students. That is how big this place is. It's almost a suburb in itself. It's massive, and it's an amazing community of people that I've been here for 6.5 years. And I also work here now as well. So I'm pretty much never getting out because I haven't seen half the campus yet still. We have over 200 clubs and societies that you can join. And if you don't have a club or society that you like, where you see yourself joining, you can actually make one as well and bring a community together and create your own little society. And these opportunities to build your networks and skill set means that you are making the most of your university experience, whether you're undergrad or postgraduate student. And as a student here, you'll be confident to know that we are ranked #1 in Australia for graduate employability and now #4 in the world, beating Harvard. That's a fact we like to let you know. So just to begin our admissions postgraduate coursework webinar, this is just the things that we'll be going through: application processes, entry requirements into our popular graduate degrees, and also other degrees, and also visa information where we can, and a Q&A at the end. So if you can hold some of your questions, that would be great, but we'll see if we can answer some of them along the way if they are relevant. Yeah. So when it comes to actually applying for postgraduate coursework degrees, the applications are open anytime from 18 to 24 months beforehand. So it means that you can submit an application, and then for maybe about 2 years ahead of time, if you have all your work prepared, and all you would need to do is actually get your documents together. So applications close for most degrees on 31st of January for semester 1, and then 30th of June for semester 2 of the commencing year. So if you'd like to actually start earlier, we do advise you to do so, mainly because if you're from Northern Hemisphere, sometimes visa issues with your consulate government might take slightly longer, and so too also bank loans that you need to consider as well. So that's just something that we encourage you to strongly consider when you're actually applying. You can also defer your offer for up to 1 year if you find that your circumstances might change, or you're just not looking to start that year either. But once you have your unconditional offer, it is there, you can defer that for up to a year, and then you can start the year after as well. And there are 2 ways to mainly actually apply to the uni. 1 is directly, and 2 is through an agent. If you choose to actually apply through us directly, you can actually find one of our courses on our website. And then going through that, there's a lot of information about course content, about course eligibility, how much it will cost, as well as basic information about what units you would actually be studying, and also career options as well. So going through that, you can check your eligibility. Most courses require a credit average in your undergraduate qualification, including overseas. So our admissions team will be assessing that for you once you submit an application. And English requirements are the second important thing you need to actually provide as well, unless your undergraduate qualification has that proof of English. In addition to that, there may be some actual requirements for specialized degrees. So you need to take a look at that on the website to see whether you qualify just based on those. And you need to provide the necessary documents as a result. And then right after you've collected all of that, including a passport, proof of residency, any official transcripts you have of your undergraduate degree, you can apply, click now, and then go through the process, submit. There is an application fee of about $125 for submissions of an application. And then once you go through that, it goes straight to our admissions team, and they'll be able to process that and get back to you within the month. If there are issues with anyone's applications currently or in the future as well, and if they don't get back to you within the month's time, you're more than welcome to actually contact us in regards to that, and we'll be happy to chase that up for you. Again, just so you probably are aware, the applications are processed based on the next incoming intake as a priority. So if you're applying 2 years ahead of time, it may or may not take a few weeks, more weeks to actually come through. One of the other easy options that you can actually go through is contacting an agent in your actual country. We have quite a number of reputable agents that you can find on our website, and their contact details are there as well. You can discuss your options with the agent as well, go through anything such as what degrees might be most suitable for you, and a bit of counseling. And they will actually submit assist you in actually submitting an application and helping you through that. And they'll also be managing the entire process and contacting us if there's any information required. Again, with the general application process, after you've actually submitted something, you will either receive an unconditional offer or a conditional offer in the process. An unconditional offer just means that you have a secure place at the University of Sydney for the degree that you're after. Means you've also met all the requirements for the degree as well. All you need to do afterwards is accept the offer on the website and make a full payment, and then you'd be able to actually come through straight away. And conditional offer, however, means that you may be missing one or two requirements, such as English proficiency, or you're waiting to actually graduate in order to actually get your transcripts. And that would mean that that you'll probably you get a conditional offer, sorry, and then once you've actually getting any of your transcripts or you're waiting on the results from the English proficiency test, you submit that straight through, and the admissions will be able to actually process that again. So, Chris, would you like to do this one?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Health, medicine and dentistry. These sometimes when students ask us, which is your most reputable degree or which degree is best known around the world, it's like asking which is your favorite child. But if you're looking at it from a perspective of which are the most difficult degrees to get into, these are certainly some of those. Sports sciences is currently on a separate campus, but is moving on to main campus. Nursing, I cannot speak highly enough of the nurses that we produce here at the University of Sydney. It's not a huge program, but I know that we have the highest research output of any nursing faculty in the country, and we're very proud of that. Our nurses must do a management unit and a leadership unit. I would be horrified if anyone said that one of our alumni, our nursing alumni, was just a nurse. We also train nurse practitioners who are now in a position where they can start to prescribe medication, which is a real broadening of the range of what a nurse is. Medical faculty, I've actually spent a year working in the medical faculty under a previous dean, and these guys are the best. They really are the best in the country. It's not just enough to be the oldest in the country. The research that they do, their constant development of what a doctor is and how we train our doctors is quite remarkable. And it's just a pleasure to meet those students. I'm going to be honest with you, they're a real pain. They are demanding of us as staff, and they know what they want, and they're not afraid about asking how to get it. They are amazing. There's a slide up in front of you that shows you how to go through the medical and dental pathway. Please make sure that you're well prepared with your MCAT or your DAT or your GAMSAT examination. That really is the place that a lot of students are not continuing through the process, and be prepared for your MMI or multiple mini interview. Please do have a plan B. It is a highly competitive program, and there are wonderful students that we are simply not able to give a position to, not because they're not good students or wouldn't make wonderful doctors or dentists. It's simply there is a limit on the number of positions that we have each year. It's called a quota course. Next. Well, this is probably an area you would know more about than I do.
Perhaps. So our law degree as well. So as Chris said, if you're going to choose what we're most famous for, it's like choosing your favorite child, which is practically impossible. But law comes in running actually quite well as one of the favorite childs of the university. We are ranked number 12 in the world, and we are the world record holder for the Jessup Cup, actually. So we've had about 5 championships. Not this year, unfortunately, but last year we were the championships for that. And our most popular postgraduate degrees would be the Juris Doctor and any of our Masters of Laws. And these will basically be suitable for anyone who's wanting to practice law in Australia. And a Juris Doctor actually allows you to do that. Masters of Law allows you to specialize in a specific area of law, but it doesn't necessarily allow you to actually practice in Australia. So that would be good for any students who are looking for a postgraduate specialization or upskilling perhaps, and then would like to go back to their own country to continue practicing.
Just a final note on law. You have to be registered usually with a bar exam in the jurisdiction that you wish to practice law. So if you want to practice law in another place outside Australia, please be aware there'll be further examinations, normally a bar exam, to enter as a lawyer into that jurisdiction.
Yeah. But again, as you can see, as Chris said, the Juris Doctor does allow you to practice, but you need to be aware that in other jurisdictions that may not be the case, but our degree is quite recognized as well. So it is a 3-year full-time professional degree. It means that you don't actually have to have any previous experience in law in order to actually get into the Juris Doctor. If you perhaps do a Bachelor of Arts, for example, or a commerce degree and would like to actually become a lawyer later on, Juris Doctor is basically a great degree and a great starter for you as well.
Also understand with a law degree, if you are considering one, that only 50% of graduates, that's not in the University of Sydney, that's across the board, will ever actually practice law. Many students take on law so that they can understand the law and that they'll go and work for a government department or they'll go into politics. Law is a great foundation degree to go off in a number of different directions. So don't think that if you're going to do a law degree that you must become a lawyer. It might sound a bit odd, but at least half the students will never practice law. That doesn't mean they're not getting jobs. Of course they're getting jobs, but a law degree is valuable in so many different areas.
No, that's very correct. I have quite a few friends who have sworn in, but they actually are not currently practicing lawyers. They've moved into actually other branches, but uses the legal knowledge in order to actually assist in their roles. And that's basically what we hope a lot of our students will be able to do when you graduate, not just actually be the professional degree that you come through, but also use the breadth of knowledge that you're going to be learning to do other things and advance your career if you'd like to as well. And again, it's a pathway to a legal profession, but if you don't have a degree in law, or you have a law degree from overseas and which is to practice in Australia, this would be something we'd be considering. And again, the entry requirements are here as well, and that might take some time for you to actually read through that on our website on this slide.
I'm going to have to talk about vet because I love vet. And I've gone to a couple of events for veterinary societies, and it's one of the most wonderful group of students on campus. Sometimes students worry, they think, my goodness, there are 70,000 students, how will I ever get to know all of them? And the answer is you don't. You get to know your group, your tribe, your people that you're interested in. There's opportunities in clubs and societies to move outside of that group, but there's also a lot of opportunity to meet those students. If you're going to do veterinary science, please have a think about it from, if you're still young enough to go straight from high school. We allow students to do 2 years of an undergraduate program, and if you're real smart and you get through and you get over the hurdles and through the hoops they demand of, you can go straight into a 4-year degree. The point of that is that you can become a vet for 6 years. And there are very few places in the world that you can do that. We get vet students going to Hong Kong, Singapore. I know we have a lot of students who then register in the United States, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and South Africa after they finish our degree. It is well regarded. You will spend 1 year out in the bush. Be aware of that. Not the whole time that you're here will you be in the city of Sydney. Most students love the program and going out to the bush for a year. Some students don't like it, it's a small number, but just be aware you will be spending 1 year of your degree out at Camden, which is about an hour and a half, 2 hours out of Sydney. There's a lot of information there on the academic requirements. If you've got more questions about that, please visit the website. All the information's obviously there, and you can go through and work out whether it's the right degree for you.
Our next slide about the MBA Leadership and Enterprise degree that we're actually offering, I won't actually be going through this in depth because Professor Guy Ford with the MBA is actually also the coordinator of the whole program, will actually be speaking with us later on at a later webinar at 12:30, I believe, Australian Eastern Standard Time. So you can definitely join us for that. But just as a quick rundown, that's all the information about admissions into the course. It is very competitive, and we do encourage seasoned professionals to actually apply. It does require about 3 years work experience, and that does professional experience as well. But it is an 18-month full-time degree, and it is an experiential-based degree as well. But there are a number of other business courses that you could actually probably consider, such as the Master of Management, which we are #1 for in Australia. And that again is one of our flagship courses after the MBA. There are also another range of postgraduate courses that are available, such as the Master of Commerce, Master of Professional Accounting, and those are quite generalist degrees if you think about it. It does allow you to specialize, so you don't actually need any previous experience, but it will teach you the foundations and also allow you to further advance onwards with your knowledge as well.
And the degree there that I love is the SEMS degree. It's a relatively small cohort. There's not a lot of students doing it, but we are the only Australian node for that. If you don't know what SEMS is, please look it up on the website and see what opportunities there are for you there.
I'd definitely like to add that the SEMS degree is for students who are particularly looking for an international experience, because out of 3 semesters, you'd actually be overseas for 2 of them working global companies. So again, if you are interested, definitely look that up. Before we move on, I think there was a question in regards to requirements for international students. So from Tomas, you're from Italy, that's absolutely fine. So the requirement for an international student for most postgraduate degrees is having an undergraduate degree with a minimum credit average. This credit average is the equivalent to an Australian credit average. So it means that without your transcript, we will not be able to actually help you assess whether you meet the requirements or not. And that can only be done after you submitted an application. So what you'll need to do is actually gather your transcripts if you've already graduated, and any of the English requirements, submit an admissions application, and then we'll make an assessment whether you've met that 65% Australian equivalent, and we'll be getting back to you with an outcome after that as well. I'm hoping that will answer your question in regards to that. Okay, so one of our oldest faculties is the Arts and Social Sciences, and that has a numerous amount of degrees that you'd actually be able to choose from for postgraduate. One of our most popular would be actually a Master of Public Policy and Master of International Studies, which allows you to get a global depth of politics that's happening around the world, which is quite important at this point in time as well. Again, more degrees in economics and media and communications for anyone who actually didn't probably do it in an undergraduate degree, but is looking to actually change a career into media in a postgraduate degree as well. The Master of Digital Communication and Culture is a bit more theory-based. I've been asked this question a lot between differences between Master of Digital Communication and Culture and Master of Media Practice. So the Digital Communication and Culture is much more theory-based. It's a lot of theoretical work that you're looking at, and doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be doing broadcast, etc. If you're looking for more journalism, broadcast, media communications, you're looking at the Master of Media Practice.
I might just jump in there. Don't let people frighten you by saying that arts and social sciences is going to lead you to a job where the most exciting thing you're going to say is, do you want fries with that? It is simply not true. Communication skills are of value. They will continue to be of value. And these degrees teach you how to communicate. Is journalism changing? Hell yeah. Is print media dead? Quite possibly. But that doesn't mean that we don't need those communicators and those communication skills. And that's what you're learning in the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, almost regardless of the type, the flavour, if you will, of the degree that you undertake. And employers do want that. They are looking for that. I go to recruitment events where employers are saying, yes, we understand that you've got this skill. Yes, we understand you've got that degree, but we need well-rounded graduates who are able to communicate. And I don't think those skills are diminishing in any way. If anything, I think the requirement for them is increasing. So please, if you're going to go into this area, do not let the haters get into your mind and say that you're not going to get a job, because you will.
I am an arts graduate and I'm here.
There you go.
But I think also one of the most important things to add as well is in an industry or global industry that's actually focusing a lot more on STEM and engineering, AI. One of the probably longest lasting things that are going to come out the end are people who actually need communication skills, soft skills, for example, not just technical skills, but soft skills that you'll be learning from a Bachelor of Arts and Social Sciences degree that will help you move beyond this STEM, engineering, AI phase that we are currently going through globally as well. And definitely technology is advancing, but these are still important soft skills that that machines actually can't learn, to be honest. So heavy consideration of that.
If any machines are watching, power to our new overlords in the future.
We love them. Our education and social work degrees as well is one of our flagships actually, with Australia being the oldest teaching school in Australia actually. University of Sydney, sorry. University of Sydney is the oldest teaching school in Australia.
I should declare this is my area of...
you are a teacher, Chris.
I was a teacher and I am also a graduate. I did my research degree in this faculty. These guys just kick it, they really do. The people who are thinking about how we're going to do education in the next generation and looking at the pedagogy, looking at the technology changes and looking at what a teacher is and does, they're doing a lot of that research here at the University of Sydney. We're extraordinarily proud of that. You don't get ranked 12th in the world in education by being a place that's just churning out the next generation of teachers. We do that as well, but these people are thinking, they're active, and they're looking at how education can be better done and serve future generations. If you are a fellow chalky like myself, please, if you've got any questions, I'm always happy to either try and answer them myself or put you through to people who know more about it than I do, which there are many here at the University of Sydney.
And if you'd actually want to be like Chris, who's a fantastic teacher, in Australia, you'd be actually doing a Master of Teaching. A Master of Education is slightly different. It does allow you to specialize in some aspects, but it doesn't actually allow you to actually teach in specific states or in public schools currently. So Master of Teaching is where you'd actually be getting that qualification. And there's also Master of Social Work for anyone actually interested. And that would be for people who may not have the experience previously in an undergraduate degree, but there are also specific prerequisites that you need to complete if you're looking to become a social worker. For example, or looking into public policy. And our list of our other degrees in our science faculty, aside from veterinary science, which we explained earlier, a lot of these degrees may require some careful looking at on our website, simply because there are a lot of prerequisites involved. For example, a Master of Clinical Psychology, and also a Master of Nutrition and Dietetics, which are two of our most popular degrees at postgraduate in Australia as well.
Before we launch into scholarships and funding, because that's a sort of an endless conversation, we might try and cull the very long list of questions that we've accumulated. I'll read the first one if you could answer it. So the audience knows the question is, in addition to the scholarships listed on the university website, are there any search engines for other scholarships you'd recommend?
Not in particular search engines, but I do highly recommend you actually search your government website to see if there's any sponsorship available. Those are usually listed, and also corporate websites as well. A lot of them list kind of specific postgraduate coursework funding. I propose the easiest would maybe actually going to your employer and seeing whether they'll actually also fund your research if it's relevant. Oh, sorry, not your research. Fund your degree if it is relevant to your job.
These are all great points. Dustin, I'd love to say there was a single point that you could go and find all of this information. I'm yet to find it. What I say you need to do is wear out a lot of digital shoe leather. There's a lot of running around, and think of it from 3 tiers. So there's a government tier. Go back to your government, whoever your government is, and say, is there funding available for studying beyond what I've done so far? The second tier is looking at the university itself. There'll be university scholarships. We have the Vice Chancellor Scholarship here. Always look at those and see if you're eligible. And then the third tier is looking for something within the program. And you'd be surprised, some degrees have their own scholarships, and even some accommodation options here at the university will have scholarships. They're the 3 tiers that you're looking at vertically. And then, as Wendy very correctly pointed out, there's external as well. So you're looking at what we refer to as third-party providers. There are some philanthropic organizations like Rotary, which gives out scholarships every year, and you want to get in touch with these organizations. And the last one that Wendy's also mentioned is your employer. Don't be shy about asking your employer, is there money? Even if no one's ever said anything, you'll be surprised. Most major companies will have some sort of funding for staff development. So those would be the places in whole that I would look at, Dustin. And it's a great question, but one that's hard to give a clear single answer to. Wendy, are there internship opportunities for 24-year-old students inside the campus from Jay?
Whether you're 18 or you're 24, there are definitely internship opportunities. We have sometimes actually people come into the office to work with us. There's also internship opportunities that the university will help you achieve outside of the university if it's part of your degree. So there are definitely plenty of things for you to actually do in regards to professional development as a student while you're studying here, whether you're 24, 18 or 46.
We should define an internship there a little bit because there's two types of internships. Internships or work placements within the university's programs, particularly in business and engineering, education, in a lot of the medical degrees, you will have a place within the degree where it's a part of your studies that you complete an activity in industry outside the university, and that's very important. And you don't get paid for those because it's an educational experience and part of your degree. It's often ascribed a unit code because it's part of the degree. Then you can have a paid internship, which is something outside of the degree, and you'll earn money for it. And again, being a student in Australia on a student visa, you have the right to work, and please exploit that advantage that you've got. It's really very valuable. So there's two types of internships. Just make sure you know what you're asking for when you ask for an internship. All right, now the next question, we have to move through these a bit more quickly. How much would accommodation on campus cost for one person?
It would depend where you'll be staying at actually. So if you're looking at private accommodation, one room or single room, a shared bathroom, it can vary from about $300 a week to about $600 a week. Again, depending whether it's catered or non-catered. So we'll go through this a little more later on in the slides.
We might not have time.
Oh, we might not have time. That's okay. So there are about two types of accommodation on campus, and that will actually affect how much things cost. So if you're one person looking to actually cater your own food, it'll be about $300 to $400. But if you're a single person room, but you're looking to actually have food catered for you and provided, that could cost up to about $500 to $600, depending again on the accommodation you've chosen, because there's plenty around the university.
The most cost-effective way to live in Sydney is to rent a 3-bedroom apartment off campus, get a couple of mates, split the costs, and that's going to give you your best value for money in the city of Sydney. But be close to a bus line or a train line. Now, the next question, Wendy, comes from... Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can answer that.
Cool.
So how long before the commencement date is the best time to actually travel to Australia to settle in?
There's a couple of different ways of doing it, like most of the answers that we're giving you today. About a month, I think, is a good time. 4 weeks is enough time to get in, have a look at the accommodation, find your feet, get your Opal card, set up a bank account, all that sort of stuff. But having said that, some students choose to come out and do a working holiday visa beforehand. I've had students come out a year beforehand and A, earn some money, B, get to know the place before they start their studies. So it depends what you want to do. But the basic answer to your question is, I would say 1 month, 4 weeks. Wendy, what do I need to know about health science faculty in Cumberland?
Well, actually, the health science faculty is progressively moving onto the main campus over the next 2 years. So you won't necessarily be in Cumberland by the time you actually may arrive. So depending on when you're going to be applying for your health science degree, you'll be probably splitting your time between the two, if you're doing it in the next few years, or after that, you'll probably most likely actually be on campus. But the faculty, the Cumberland faculty is actually about an hour drives away from the main Camperdown campus. It is again on its own little block of land. So it means that when you're on campus, it feels like you're on campus. It has its own little community, has its own little arts and social sciences clubs, etc. And a full move will actually be made in 2021. Actually, I've just been told. So there is a new building being made for that.
There are a couple of new buildings on campus will be taking over those responsibilities. And these new buildings are state-of-the-art and they are purpose-built. It's not that they're just throwing up a building and putting you in there. They have spent 5 years designing and planning these buildings even before they broke soil. So we've been planning this for a very long time. In fact, the whole time I've been at the University of Sydney, they've been moving back. But they're actually getting it done, and you'll have beautiful, purpose-built new facilities on main campus within the next year or two. But you might have a few classes at the old campus if you're joining us next semester.
Next question.
Please.
So regarding transportation, is it better for me to live near the campus or would it be more expensive?
The campus this is actually in quite an expensive area of the city. I believe you're best off going out if you're looking at cost as an important factor. Somewhere like Burwood, which is there are express trains between Burwood and Redfern, but the cost of living there is lower. So you're going to have that trade-off between distance and cost. The closer you are to the campus, the more expensive it's going to be, but the more convenient it is. You have to work out where that balance point for you is. For my mind, if I was a new student and cost was important to me, I'd again be looking around that Burwood area because you've only got a 10-minute express ride from Burwood into the Redfern station, but the cost there is going to be
much higher. I've looked.
Burwood's expensive.
Burwood is actually okay these days. For 2-bedroom, it'd be about 500 Australian dollars. But again, that's provided you can actually find someone to move in with.
Yep.
These areas do vary in costs and also provisions, utilities, etc. So those are things and tips that you can actually look on for on our website as well.
All right, next question. Regarding transportation, oh, sorry, I did that one. It seems that if you are interested in pursuing a doctorate, you should perform your degree by postgraduate degree by research. Is this supposition true?
Yes, that is true.
All right, next one.
Next question. Please brief me about the Master of Rehabilitation Counselling. We might leave that for another time. If you'd like to email us that question, that would be great, and we'll be able to give you an in-depth
that's a whole presentation
email.
by itself.
Yeah, exactly. It's a whole presentation by itself. It will give you an in-depth email reply if you'd like.
Next one, Wendy. When is the latest you can accept your offer for semester 2?
I believe it is just about before you start. However, what admissions would actually like you to do is they will send you an email to actually remind you to accept your offer, and they'll let you know when it is that you need to do so, because it does vary from degree to degree. Specialized degrees will actually require, or especially quota degrees, will require an early acceptance date than other general degrees that may require, that doesn't have a quota because it is not first come, first serve. So you need to see, depending on which degree you're looking at, the acceptance dates might be different.
Well, Wendy, would you read the next question?
Yeah. Hello. I was not able to actually have the audio on. I saw that VA benefits were able to be brought over from the United States. And would that be federal VA benefits or state VA benefits?
Great question, and please follow up with that with me. But generally, your GI Bill funding, you can bring that with you. We have 2 staff, God help them. Their job is just to help Canadian and American students bring those funds with you. Know that there's a hierarchy, so you have to use your GI Bill funding first, and then any FAFSA funding secondary to that, and then you can use all of the loans that are available for you. We have a number of students who are on campus studying under their GI Bill funding. You're probably also referring to other service-specific top-up funds. From most of them that I've seen, there's no problem with bringing them to Australia. I've never seen one of those top-up provisions of funding that's not being able to take it overseas with you. But please, if you've got more questions, send me an email and I'll put you in touch with a lady by the name of Felicia Tesserera who'll be able to give you chapter and verse on that. Next question, are there scholarships specific to Indian students?
Yes, there is. There are several scholarships specific to Indian students, namely the VCIS, which is actually all international students. Specific to India is the one Sydney Scholars India Scholarship that's being offered in semester 2 of each year. So you can actually find more information on our website. Applications don't open until April next year, and it's only for students commencing in semester 2 next year, 2020, and semester 1, 2021.
Thanks, Jay.
Thanks, Jay. So why are there courses, Chris, such as the Master of Teaching, where we can't defer the offer? And that's a question from Asgar.
Oh, look, some of the programs, they have specific requirements, and these requirements can change, so you won't be allowed to defer. Some of the quota programs, you're also not allowed to defer because we can't hold a position for someone in the following round because each cohort is taken as an individual cohort and assessed. So normally it's because either there are credentialing issues or there's a quota attached to them. But that's a great question because some programs you can defer and some you can't. Actually, most courses you can defer. There's a small number that you can't defer. All right, Wendy, what are the study materials that will be provided when I'm studying a Master of Rehabilitation Counselling? Again, we're going to get back to that one. Jay, if you could send us a specific email, we'll have a look at that in more detail. As a domestic student is the next question. Are you charged an application fee from Zach? Do you know this one?
No, you are not. So as a domestic student, you'll actually be applying through UAC and you will not be charged an application fee unless I believe you actually exceeded the deadline, in which case there may be one, but it will depend.
Actually, there is a cost that you need to register with UAC. It's not an application fee as such, it's just a fee that they charge, and this is UAC, not the University of Sydney, to get your registration number. I can't remember how much it is, but it's not a huge amount of money. But there is a fee to register as opposed to apply with UAC. I might be splitting hairs on that one, but there is a small cost and you get a certain number of choices within that, and then you load those up, and then be careful you know which round you're in and the dates for that. But please go through to the UAC website as an Australian domestic student. All the international students, please disregard everything I said. It has nothing to do with you. Next one.
Next question. So what is the international acceptance rate for DVM programs, and is there a minimum GPA requirement? Thank you, Catherine, for that question.
Oh, look, it's a great question. The Doctor of Veterinary Medicine is one of the programs that I just mentioned, a quota program. Is there a minimum GPA requirement? Yes, there is. And there's also a letter that you have to produce, Catherine, showing your commitment to animals. Please make sure that you get the number of hours that you have either volunteered or worked with handling or dealing with animals, and get that signed off as part of your application process. What's the international acceptance rate? I don't know, but I know that we publish what you need to get in, and that makes it a lot clearer for you as to whether you're going to be a competitive candidate or not. I'm going to be honest with you, there's always more candidates than there are positions. What's the actual rate? I don't know, but it is a competitive program, and please put your best foot forward when you're applying to that program to make yourself the most competitive candidate. Great question, Catherine. The next question is, should I come to the University of Sydney in undergraduate or postgraduate? What do citizens of a specific country prefer that their children go abroad for postgraduate? Is this due to the costs or due to maturity factor? What's your opinion?
That's a very heavy question, and one that might require a slide in itself. But as a quick answer, it really depends on your personal preferences. For a lot of students who are coming to undergraduate programs and looking for a full experience of what it's like to actually live abroad and to actually, for the first time, be independent. So what I've known is that a lot of students tend to find that it's actually also cheaper to do it in Sydney than it is their home country. And so they'll rather do that and actually look at our experience. Again, Sydney, sun, right now it's about 27 degrees. You have Bondi Beach right next to us. You have a whole lot of blue water, an amazing, vibrant city. Why wouldn't you, right? As a postgraduate student, however, I find that these students are much more mature. So when they're coming to the University of Sydney, they're looking at what our programs can offer them professionally, in addition to maybe campus life and what job opportunities are also available in the city as well. And international experience really does help with jobs. It is a differentiating factor, having lived overseas, having worked overseas, being able to speak a different language, for example, as well, and immersing yourself in this kind of environment that allows you to practice.
And we should reiterate that our university graduates, we're extremely proud of them, but we're not just proud of them. Employers have made us the fourth most competitive employing university. So we're producing graduates that employers want. And again, that's fourth in the world. That's just spectacular. So it's really what you put into the experience will heavily affect what you get out of it, and it depends on what your goals are. I'd love to discuss that further with you. If you wanted to set up a further conversation, we'd be happy to do that. We really should show the contacts there, Wendy. Do we have that slide?
Here we go. So if you actually would like to contact us, our email is listed over there, and also there's some website links that you can take a look at, including the accommodation office and the scholarships office. I'm so sorry that we actually ran out a bit of time to actually go through those slides, but there's a lot of in-depth information on those links provided that will allow you to actually give a full rundown of what is available from the University of Sydney when it comes to scholarships as well as accommodation.
Thanks for sharing your time with us. We really do appreciate it. We didn't get to everything that we wanted to, but it's a perfect opportunity for you to contact us, send us an email, and I'm sure we can answer all of your questions in the fullness of time. Thanks again for registering. Thanks again for taking the time to spend this hour with us. I hope it was of value. Thank you for your time, Wendy.
Thank you for your time, Chris, and thank you so much for everyone for joining us.
And don't forget about the other webinars as well. There might be one that's more specific to your needs.
The next one coming up is actually Life in Sydney. So that's presented by Sean Douglas, who is also a colleague of mine and also an alum of the University of Sydney, who'll be talking about his experience as a student here. And after that is a webinar for anyone interested in the MBA as well.
That's a good one.
So thank you so much, guys.
Cheers, mate.